attempt to figure out the coolant leak and carburetor, see if we can get it to run a little bit better. So I put a quart of oil in it earlier and it didn't bring it up very far. We're gonna ignore that for right now. But let's go ahead and pull off the air cleaner, see if we actually even have anything underneath there. I'm shocked we do. That air filter is old and it smells like gas. So bring this over here. And it's probably me from earlier. So somebody's broke off the carburetor stud already. I see the breather element in there hasn't been changed in eons, it looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this pulled off, and I'll pull a spark plug out and we'll see where we're at. Alright, so here's the plug. Looks like it's running a wee bit, starting to show a wee bit lean. This is just the one I pulled out. And then carburetor wise, looks exactly like I thought it would. Nothing's really been changed. Yeah, it's pretty all there. I actually might try with this car to retain the vacuum system to see if I can possibly still make it work the way it is. Very doubtful, but I'm going to attempt that first before I start ripping everything off, because I want to see, eventually I will drive this and see what kind of mileage. But for right now, really just want to get the car to run and see if I can figure out where that coolant leak is. So I'm gonna go ahead and mess with this and I'll get back to you. Choke is working and idling the car up as it should, but I have a few vacuum ports that are leaking and broken, so I'm going to address that. When you have the air cleaner off, this tends to leak. And then back here on this vacuum block, looks like one broke off and I have it plugged. So I'm going to plug that one off and then maybe stick something in the other one to see if I get that to stop. But from what it looks like right now, the choke is working and allowing the car to idle up, so it's because it's cold. So let me do some investigating more and I'll get back to you. Got some ether so we can check for vacuum leaks. So let's go ahead and fire it up again and see what we got. so I guess I lied a little. I'm not gonna try dealing with the vacuum line stuff. It's already causing me issues already. So luckily me, I have another carburetor that I just have to pull all this off, slap it on. It should be good to go, and then should be able to figure out if we got a head gasket leak or kind of what's going on with that. So I can almost guarantee that it has no thermostat in it, because the people I bought it from just seem like those kind of people. So I'm gonna hold off on this for a minute and find something else to jump into. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So we're back on the old 3G again, and haven't really cleaned much more from the last video. So I'm really trying to make sure this thing is going to run, or what it's going to need to run, before I really invest too much more time. So I'm going to go ahead and start yanking out all the emission stuff and try to get the carburetor dealt with, so we get this thing to kind of idle and run right, and see what if it smokes, things of that nature. Definitely has the wrong thermostat housing and some janky splicing going on down there, but I'm gonna go ahead and get into tearing this thing apart. All right, so you're just gonna need, for this kind of down simple quick, 14, 10, 12, same with sockets, ratchet, pliers, pair of dikes, and that's all you really need to make this happen. So let's go ahead and tear into this. All right, so I got most of the emission stuff off, as you can see. Pretty quick, simple. I mean, I've done this enough times, it's pretty easy for me. But like the brake hose here, it broke off, so I'd imagine it's super brittle, caused a vacuum leak. And you can kind of see in there, there's fuel just sitting in there, so that's probably not, you know, helping my situation with it not running so great. And then like the PCV valve right here is like kinked and cracked, so that's kind of, so for you people with the AC cars and doing this, you have to keep this piece right here in the vacuum hose, but that's what idles up the car when you push the AC button, so the engine doesn't die out. So if you have AC, that's very important to keep. But here's the pile of parts. I think we will bust into these, and I would like to show the difference in the carburetors. There's a few differences between the 1.5 and the 1.3, but that's pretty much that for that part. Next day or two, I will make up the block off brackets with EGR and the valve over there, and we'll get this a little bit more cleaned up. Well, probably won't clean up for right now, just because I want to get this thing to try to get it running. But yeah, that's all it took to get the emission stuff out. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear up some space, and we'll compare the difference in the carburetors, and we'll go ahead and jump into the emissions box. There is one thing I do want to point out, that since I've already taken this off, so the 1.3s do not have the other black box here, and the 3-port, I don't even know what you want to call it up here, but the 1.3s do not have that, and that goes for the HFs, the early HFs, the 1.3s, they don't have that emissions box either. So things are a little different, and even the hoses in this box, there's more on the 1.5s. So that's kind of the dead giveaway if you have a stock car and you don't know what it is. If it doesn't have the emissions box over here, that's a 1.3. Let's talk carburetors for the 1.3 and the 1.5. So I have two of them here. This is the one I just pulled off. This is the 1.3, and this is a fully devac'd 1.5 carburetor. They are both 3-barrel. You got your two, and then this one here is for the CVCC. On both of those, that's what that little extra hole is for, the CVCC. So from the front, I still have all the hoses and stuff on there, as you can see. So let me grab a flashlight. But it's got all the same, it's got the somewhat same. So the 1.3 carburetor only has this vacuum port, where the 1.5 has both of these here. This one is just, it's dormant. There's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. There's nothing there. So that's kind of the difference with on the front half. The sides are virtually the same. So where things get a little different is back here with the 1.5 and the 1.3. So on the 1.5, it has the 3 vacuum ports up here. The 1.5 just, or the 1.5 has the 3 up here, and then the 1.3 just has the single one here, and then they both have the 2 down at the bottom and the 1 here at the side. And then this side, everything's been taken off, the choke mechanism and stuff, which with this car, I'm going to try to make the factory choke work. So that'll be in another part of the video. But that's kind of what the rundown of the carburetors are. And then if you look, oops, spilled out some fuel. So on the bottom, on the 1.3, it has smaller butterfly or throttle blades. Let's see, let's figure out how much smaller they are. So the 1.5, I guess you want to call this the secondary, or probably the primary, we're looking at about 30 millimeters. And on the 1.3, we are looking, I'd say about 26 millimeter on the primaries. And then on the secondaries, on the 1.5, let's say we have about 34. And then looks like the 1.3 is exactly the same on that side. So that's where you get a bit more fuel economy with the 1.3 carburetor. So yeah, that's the basic rundown on those carburetors. There's a few little differences, but the throttle blade size is the huge difference on the mileage. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the 1.3 carburetor, get all the vacuum caps and all the rest of that stuff off, and get it ready to be rebuilt. Just probably clean it off and check all the screws and do what I need to do for the bracketry. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into that, and I'll show you guys my progress when I'm done. All right, so we're gonna dig into what's inside these emissions box. So just take the plastic covers off. There's about 8 screws, and this is what you got. You have a bunch of solenoids, vacuum stuff, you know, wires, you got breathers. So I'm not sure how oftenly these go bad in here. I'd imagine at this age they're probably starting to become issues. And then, you know, just the vacuum lines get old. So that's all really what's inside these black boxes. Nothing too crazy. So, fine, this is going to be a lot of problems for a lot of people, especially with these cars in the drier climate if they're not taken care of, is the rubber isolator plate that goes to the intake, and then you got your carburetor side. So kind of lucky I had an extra one laying around that wasn't bad, but if you look at this one, let me grab a flashlight. You can see how so badly cracked it is. There, it's got a decent seal on it. It might be all right, but you come under here, looks like it's had a lot of backfiring through the carburetor, and it's torching the rubber. That's what it looks like. So unfortunately there's no way to get new ones. Maybe if somebody could 3D print one. I don't have that ability, but that is an option. Maybe somebody wants to try that. Or you just go to the Weber conversion, which usually that's the best thing to do. It is a little bit of money, but it is what it is. So got the intake cleaned up. We're just waiting on the other rubber isolator. I boiled it in, I'm boiling a little bit of hot water to kind of loosen it up so it'll get a little bit better seal, and we'll start working on the carburetor and get that going, and hopefully by the end of the weekend we'll have this thing running again. I still got to make block off plate. Would you guys be down? I was thinking about maybe doing a small batch of block off plates, having some made for down here at the exhaust on the 1.5s that have the EGR tube that runs up, and then the one for here and here. Maybe put together like a whole kit with vacuum hose plugs, block off plates, things of that nature. Comment down below if you guys be interested, and maybe I'll see about getting something worked out. All right, so this is what we got going on for the fully dressed down 1.3 carb, the way we're going to be doing it. Like I said, this one I'm going to try leaving the choke and see if we get that to work, and then I'll have to do an update video on keeping the choke on the DVAC stuff. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and put the carb on. I'll go ahead and bolt it down and get everything hooked up and knock out that block off plate. All right, so this is how I found the PVC hose. So this goes down the PCV valve, and this went up to the intake. Well, it was like this, and then it's got tons of cracks in it, which it being bent over like this is not going to allow the PVC valve, PCV, to vent into the engine like it could. So that very well could be what's causing it to smoke. So what I did, just took another longer piece of hose that goes to the PVC valve, and then up here more of a sweep, temporary. Whoever put the PVC valve in there really shoved that damn thing in there. So we're working on that. So here's the carb. So as I was kind of stating, the 1.5s, which the 1.3s don't have, is the EGR tube that takes exhaust from the manifold and then runs it up into here into the EGR valve. This doesn't have that on the 1.3s. So that's another one of those little weird little differences emissions wise. I don't know if it's because the 1.3s are 10-to-1 compression, so I don't know if the higher compression made it burn cleaner. I'm not sure. But I'm gonna get the throttle cable hooked up, get the fuel line hooked up, and bust out that block off plate real quick and fix the brake line hose. This thing is hard and brittle, so I'll put a new one of those on so we'll make sure we have no vacuum leaks. So got the block off plate done. It's just rough. I'll paint it eventually. Car's back on, everything's tightened down. Checked the oil, fuel line's hooked up, sprayed some ether in there, so we'll see if it starts. Doesn't smell that bad in here. Ugh. The choke is working. So I got it to run, as you can see, and put some coolant in it, and runs okay. I still have a vacuum leak. I believe it's the isolator plate, so I'm going to try some fuel grade silicone, see if that helps anything. But they said it needed a new thermostat housing. I'm like, well, it looks okay. Well, it's definitely missing a bolt right there, and I'd have to guess it's probably missing the lower one. And then we have this janky splicing going on here. So that's kind of that. And I don't know if you can see too well down there. There's a little bit of water leaking, so I'd imagine it's coming out of the steam port back here. Oops. So that's gonna be my guess where it's losing coolant from. Otherwise it seems to be okay. I think the smoking could be because it's pressurizing the cooling system, then it's pushing it out, making it smell like it's a head gasket. So I'm gonna go ahead and investigate that a smidge bit more. But it does run. It's not knock or anything, so I can go forward with getting the car a little bit more cleaned up, and you know, this is a viable, usable car. So I'm gonna do for right now is I'm gonna pull the thermostat housing and stuff off, see if it needs like an O-ring or whatnot, and I'll get back to you. So this is the silicone you want to use, the Permatex gasket dressing and sealant. It is resistant against all automotive fuels. So this is probably a problem a lot of you guys are having. This just isn't sealing anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a bead around here, and then probably a little bit around here, and then I'll do the same on the top side. So I'm going to go ahead and get this open and get it applied. Alright, so again, this is what you want to use. It's like a blue, I don't even know what you really want to call it per se. But I'll let that set up. Let that set up overnight and see how it does tomorrow. So yeah. Alright, so this is where things get a little weird. So the thermostat housing is correct, like the outlet housing, but the actual thermostat housing is wrong. So now I'm on the hunt to try to find one of these. You see where it's been broke, the alignment tabs are broken, and then the O-ring that went inside here from the passover pipe was broke. in pretty much in half. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video off there because I really can't make any more progress. So that's what's gonna happen. So I'd like to say thanks for watching. Can I get you guys to like and subscribe? And I will see you guys shortly.